Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna, everyone. Are we here?
Yes. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So today we are welcoming back Aniruddha Prabhu to hear the continuation on the discussion on tolerance. This is particularly for the Bhakti VIHE and Bhaktivedanta students, but at least the Bhakti Sadachar are welcome to stay at least for a little while before they move on to their own classes at 8 o'clock. I see Raghunath Priya here and some devotees. Stephanie is here. Hari Hari. Good. All right. So Aniruddha Prabhu, please start. I think you are here. I've seen you.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye, Krishna. Thanks, Prashanta. Welcome, everybody. Ama Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmaye Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Tadati Svapadantikam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lankayate Kurim Yat Kripa Tamham Bande Sri Gurum Dinatarinam. Now, we had some homework. Rajeshwari, are you able to refresh us on what those homework questions were, please, in the chat?
Yes.
I think the first question was, who in our line, if you like, in the Bhagavatam and in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and in the examples of the previous acharyas, the first question was, who stands out in your experience or in your minds as examples of tolerance? If you can, and everybody can do this, is in the chat, you can type in your answers. In Zoom at the bottom, and there's a chat feature. If you click on that, or it's Alt-H, you can then type in to the chat who do you think, who do you think are or is, because it could be plural, good examples or examples of tolerance. And hang on, we've just got somebody here. Our ashram leader. Does the ashram leader have a name? Who put that up? Does the ashram leader have a name? Whoever put that comment in? I can't see. It doesn't tell me who wrote it. Homework from the class list. Individual examples of tolerance in our tradition. Yeah. Okay, so let's see if we can get a list up. We've got our ashram leader and the general devotees, which is true, of course. 3 new messages, just hang on. Ooh. Right, okay. I don't know if she's well known in general. Well, give us her name and then we'll know, won't we? Bhishma Dev. Whoa, okay. I'm just going to keep a note of these here. We're going to have a list. Always good to have a list. Bhishma, Pandavas. Yeah, that's good. Let's have a look at who else have we got here. Yep. Haridas Thakur. Yes. Parikit Maharaj. Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Okay. Bhakti Siddhanta. Yep. Okay. Jagat Priya Mataji. Okay. Where's Jagat Priya Mataji situated? Prahlad Maharaj. Yes, very good. Okay. Okay. In UK. Okay, very good. Have we got anybody else? We've got a good list here. Bhishma, Pandavas, Haridas Thakur. Krishna. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, anybody else like to add to our list? We've got now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 items, so that's pretty good. Okay, now, Yashoda Mai. Ooh, Yashoda Mai. Chitraketu. Ooh, Chitraketu, that's a good example, yeah. Chitraketu Maharaj. Yep, that's good. Let's just see if I've got everybody. Yep. Chitraketu, Mother Earth, Bhumi. Yep. And Dharma, the bull. Yep, good. Okay. Rightio. Thank you. I think we've got enough here. Rightio. The second question then is why are they examples of tolerance? Who'd like to say, and you can raise your hands or you can open up your mic here so we can hear. who'd like to speak on Bhishma Dev and tell us why Bhishma Dev is an example of tolerance? Okay, Kosturika, you're the only hand that I can see. Would you like to say?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you, Hare Krishna. Yeah, I was thinking about Bhishma there because when Bhishma was laying on the bed of arrows, his blood was oozing out. But still, when Pandavas came, he was actually glorifying what all they went through. Although he was in pain, he was not considering his pain so much as compared to what Pandavas went through. And that is a lot of tolerance. And also he tolerated the bad company of Dhritarashtra because he wanted to be loyal to the, to the Kuru dynasty. So he showed a lot of tolerance all his life. That's my understanding.
And considering he was a brahmachari also for all of that time, is considered to be a measure of tolerance or certainly determination. Okay, that's good. Who'd like to tell us about the Pandavas? How are the Pandavas an example of tolerance? Raise your hands or unmute and start speaking. Seize the opportunity to speak. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Oh.
Hare Krishna, yeah.
I was going to just say the Pandavas tolerated so much, from the exile to all of the different tribulations that they went through, to the poisoning, to burning in the house of luck, and so many different atrocities and pains and sufferings that were inflicted by their cousins and so forth. So,
yes, yeah. Okay, that's good. Now, who'd like to speak about Haridas Thakur? Famous example of tolerance. You can put your hand up or you can just speak, I think. It's fine. But you obviously have to unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Haridas Thakur was beaten in many marketplaces because he was a Muslim, but chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So, but still he tolerated this situation. So, yeah. So this is the great example of tolerance.
Yes, and what is significant about Haridas Thakur's being beaten in 26 marketplaces, and at the conclusion of his beating, why did he stop?
Sorry, why didn't he stop, Prabhuji? That
He
is the
stopped
question.
chanting on the appeal of the guards. And their entreaty was, if you don't stop, then we're going to be punished.
Yes, yeah. That is why.
And out of compassion for those who were beating him, he stopped chanting.
Yes.
Became unconscious. So even he was concerned about those hurt. He was tolerating the beating, but he was also concerned about their welfare, which is an interesting quality of tolerance. Especially in Haridas Thakur's case, he exhibited great compassion, and he forgave those who were mistreating him. So there was a degree of forgiveness, and Prabhupada mentions that forgiveness is an ingredient of tolerance. Okay, what about Maharaj Parikshit? Thank you, Prabhu. Who'd like to speak on Maharaj Parikshit as an example of tolerance?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, Maharaj Parikshit was cursed by Brahman, but he did not react. Rather, he tolerated the situation, and he went for ultimate cause of how to face death, and he did not react to this situation. So this is the great example of tolerance, I think, Prabhuji. So, yes. And he surrendered to a pure devotee to hear about Srimad Bhagavatam, how to face.
Yeah, and so what did Maharaj Parikshit accept, or what did Maharaj Parikshit acknowledge in accepting the curse of the Brahmin? How did he see the curse of the Brahmin's son?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Can I answer?
Sure, yeah.
He took it as mercy of the Lord because he is a pure devotee of the Lord. He knew that
Yes.
Krishna was protecting even when he was in the womb of his mother. So if
yes.
Krishna wanted it to happen, let it happen. That was the mood
Yes.
of Ambrish Maharaj also when Durvasa Muni was cursing. Durvasa Muni was sending an Asura to kill Ambrish Maharaj.
Yes, that's right. He saw it as Krishna's arrangement.
Yes.
He took it as Krishna's arrangement. He didn't see the external, or not that he didn't see the external manifestation of the curse in the form of the utterances of Shringi, the son of Samika Rishi, but he saw behind the curse of the boy Krishna's hand. And so therefore, when a devotee is able to see the hand of Krishna in the circumstances that surround him, then he can accept it. Okay, yep, that's good. What else? What else, Lila Madhuri, you might be able to tell us. What else? What's another example of his tolerance?
I couldn't get the question from.
What is another example of Maharaj Parikshit's tolerance?
In his own life, or I should give some other devotee?
No, in his own life, in Maharaj Parikshit. Especially the last 7 days of his life.
Tolerance, it is my understanding, Prabhu, that 7 days, definitely a common man wouldn't have accepted that he is going to die after 7 days. But he took it as, definitely it is a tolerance as per my knowledge. He took that 7 days time to spend with, by hearing glories of the Lord and by spending time with the devotees. It is my realization.
Yeah, but he didn't eat or drink or sleep. He was just
not even a moment.
Absorbed in the, and usually after a few hours, we're starting to get hungry,
Yes.
for example. Or, you know, there's a famous, it's often said that if you can't sleep, then go to the Bhagavatam class. Right?
Yes.
If you're having trouble sleeping, then go to the Bhagavatam class. That should help you. If anybody has insomnia, Bhagavatam class is a good cure for insomnia. But Parikshit Maharaj was able to tolerate those pushings, if you like, because of his enthusiasm for hearing from Sukadeva Goswami. All right. Now, here's an interesting one. Somebody mentioned Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So I'm curious to hear how does Bhakti Vinod Thakur exemplify tolerance? What's the example there?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I was thinking for Bhakti Vinod Thakur because there were so many Upper Vaishnava Sampradayas during his time. And also, there was one man who wanted to kill Bhakti Vinod Thakur even. He was so much threatened, but he was never compromising with the Vaishnava Siddhanta. So this is that's a lot of tolerance to give the right thing.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. All right. Because Bhakti Vinod Thakur is not usually identified with the quality of tolerance, but I guess, the quality of tolerance is manifest in all devotees' activities. Okay. What about Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur? What's his example of tolerance? Who would like to say? Please raise your hands, or just somebody who hasn't spoken.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
I don't know much about Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, but the only thing where I saw the tolerance exhibited from him is when he refuted this philosophy, like some people, they were telling that they only belong to Lord Nityananda's family. They come from Nityananda Vamsha. So then Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he told that not only these people can perform devotional service, but all other living entities also can perform devotional service, and they are eligible to give initiation and all these things. And these people, they were so much in revenge on Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj that they even decided to kill him. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur Maharaj told him to leave the place, go to Puri, I think. So that's where I see his tolerance and all that.
Tolerance. Okay. Are you sure it's tolerance? Because he vigorously argued that it's by qualification, not by birth. And we see this in Srila Prabhupada's teachings, that he, and following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, that anybody, regardless of birth, they could teach or become a guru effectively if they understood the science of Krishna, regardless of, what your birthright is. So in one sense, he was vigorously defending this philosophy, and he was also preaching against the Nityananda Vamsa their conclusions, their philosophical conclusions. So he was a vigorous opponent. So in one sense, you know, he wasn't tolerant at all of this nonsense kind of philosophy. He was he attacked it. Does that make sense?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Like
you know, when I was thinking of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I was thinking of the time when he took a vow, much like Haridas Thakur, to chant 1 lakh of mantras every day. And he did that for a very long period of time in Mayapur, living very, very, very simply. And it was after that period of austerity, tapasya, and of chanting Hare Krishna, that he then embarked the realizations that came from the performance of that tapasya, if you like, was his dedication, his resolve to establish the Gaudiya Math and to establish the preaching mission. So that would have been my example of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's tolerance, if you like. Okay. Go on. Yes, Rajesh.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur accepted sannyas from the picture of his Guru Maharaj, and then people used to criticize him that his Guru Maharaj is not present, but he took sannyas from his picture. So, but he tolerated the situation. Like, you know, though everybody is criticizing, but still he was firm in his conviction that what is done, that is actually according to scriptural injunctions. That is okay. That is good. I mean, so this is also an example of tolerance, Prabhuji. Am I right?
Yes, but I'm not sure if Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is recognized as an example of tolerance in that particular case, but rather his being a very innovative and dynamic character, dynamic personality in the parampara, and that acceptance of sannyas, the institutionalization of sannyas in the preaching mission and in the institution is an example more of his adaptability, his what's the word? Yeah, he's dynamic. He's a dynamic preacher. And also not somebody to be imitated, by the way. So the example is one who understood the principles of renunciation, the principles of preaching, and the principle of following the parampara, and his unique application of those principles makes him an outstanding member of the parampara. Anybody else like to comment on that?
Yes, thank you.
Prabhu, I was also thinking how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj used to face so many struggles, especially even at the attempt of killing him. You know, how his disciple has actually exchanged his clothes to him and he needed to flood away. but still he never compromised. So that is also a sign of tolerance.
And yes, that's a good one. And one that I think of often is that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had the premonition, he had the prescience to know and also to tell Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, our Prabhupada, if you like, that there will be a fire in the month, right? And so he must have been feeling disappointment or some form of concern about the fact that his leading disciples didn't understand his mission fully, right? And you know, he's credited as having said that you know, our Prabhupada at some point he will do everything, right? Bhaktisiddhanta. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had the vision or the inspiration or the awareness of the demise of the Gaudiya Math, and yet he also had the vision of seeing Srila Prabhupada spreading Krishna consciousness throughout the world. And so that demonstrates his tolerance to the behavior of his disciples, and also his ability to see the success of Lord Chaitanya's mission embodied in our Srila Prabhupada. Okay, now here's a very famous one. What about Prahlad Maharaj? Is there somebody else who hasn't spoken who could contribute, give us some information about Prahlad Maharaj and his personification of tolerance?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I guess Prahlad Maharaj is pretty straightforward example because he had like a very demonic father and people who didn't understand his faith, his religion at the beginning, but he was very faithful, and he actually, in the end, he demonstrated that his faith to his father. At this famous instance, you know, the Lord appeared out of a pillar. So I guess he was very tolerant until he could demonstrate his faith to people who didn't believe him.
And what did he tolerate? What was he tolerating in the midst of all of this?
I think his father was trying to do some harm to him because obviously.
In what way? In what way was his father trying to do harm to him?
Well, he even tried to, you know, strike him down, and I can't remember exactly, actually.
Can anybody else say what did Prahlad Maharaj tolerate in basically the abuse of his father?
By putting poison in his food.
Yeah, he tried to poison him. Yeah,
and in the cave, I mean, putting him in the cave where full of snakes, and like he was thrown from a mountain.
Yeah.
And also, yes, Prabhuji, that is what I know. And
trampled by elephants.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Boiled in oil. Yeah.
And from my point of view, he tolerated the blasphemy, like Hiranyakashipu was trying to prove that there is no God. He's God himself. So he tolerated the false philosophy presented by someone who is atheist and who. So this is also kind of tolerance shown by devotees.
Yes.
Like devotees can be in a situation that where are full of atheist and materialistic people, so they can through their philosophy. So he can be motivated by the situation, by that philosophy. But Prahlad Maharaj was very much convict. I mean, he had full conviction that Vishnu is the supreme personality of Godhead. So that is the show of that tolerance presented
Yes,
by.
and it's why Haridas Thakur is considered to be an incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. Also of Haridas Thakur is identified as the personification of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur is the personification of Prahlad Maharaj tolerance, and also he's considered an incarnation or a manifestation of Lord Brahma. After Brahma stole the calves from Krishna in Krishna Leela, then Lord Brahma prayed to Krishna that he be, and feeling very embarrassed and very fallen, he prayed to Krishna that he be allowed to participate in his pastimes as his devotee, in that mood of submission and in that mood of patita. Lord Chaitanya is described as patita pavan, the most merciful to the fallen. So Lord Brahma prayed that he could take part in the Lord's pastimes in that mood of a very fallen servant. And so he was granted that benediction to participate as Haridas Thakur in Chaitanya Leela. Okay, radio. So Prahlad Maharaj, yes. Now somebody said here Krishna tolerated Sisupal. Well, I guess it's fairly clear why. But, one sense, Krishna tolerates all of us, especially those of us in the material world. So I think that's pretty straight. Now, what about, I'm curious about this one. Somebody mentioned Yashoda Mai. How does Yashoda Mai demonstrate the principle of tolerance? Who suggested Yashoda Mai?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, I put Yashoda Mai. I think she's more of an example tolerating the separation from Krishna. So not in a good way. I think she's an exemplar of that.
Okay, that's interesting. Not tolerating his stealing yogurt and butter.
As well, but she sometimes doesn't tolerate it. She would like tie him up or beat him up, but she does tolerate his mischievousness to some extent as well.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, here's another one. Chitraketu Maharaj. Chitraketu Maharaj. Who suggested Chitraketu Maharaj as an example of tolerance, and why?
Prabhu, I suggested Chitraketu as the example for tolerance because he got cursed and he accepted it to become a demon, and he didn't object. So
yes, and when he was cursed, who did he become?
He became Vritrasura.
Yeah. And yeah, Vritrasura has some amazing qualities. Even though he's born as a demon, he demonstrated the qualities of a devotee. And yeah, despite inconvenience, he still he knew he was going to die, that he was going to be defeated by the demigods, by Indra in particular. And it's interesting. There's another interesting story. When the demigods went to the rishis, I can't remember the exact detail, but he was advised, the demigods were advised that if you go to Marichi, if you can make a weapon out of his bones, right, then you could kill Vritrasura. And so they went to Marichi and they asked Marichi for his bones, right, which means effectively they were going to kill him. Yet, you know, for the benefit of others, he gave up his body and his bones so that Indra could fashion a weapon with which he could kill Vritrasura. So, and then in fighting with Vritrasura, Indra was being defeated at one point in the battle. You know, the battle goes up and down, in and out. And so it appeared that Vritrasura was winning. And Vritrasura had to encourage Indra, come on, fight, you know, because he knew that his fighting with Indra meant that he would be released from that curse and then he could regain his original position. And so for him, losing was winning. But Indra didn't understand that, because when he was fighting with Vritrasura, Vritrasura was winning. And so anyway, so it's a very unique pastime, the pastimes of Maharaj Chitraketu, and the curse received from Parvati when he was laughing at Lord Shiva. You know, Lord Shiva is the exemplar of renunciation, and yet he was in giving his presentation to the sages, he had his wife sitting on his lap, and Maharaj Chitraketu was cracking a joke on which Lord Shiva didn't take offensively because they were friends, but of course his wife was upset, and so she cursed him for being impudent. There's a lot of humour in that pastime, but very interesting. Marichi, approached by the demigods, gave up his life, gave his bones, so they could craft a weapon that would kill Vritrasura. That may not be tolerance, although certainly there's a certain amount of tolerance. There's certainly a great degree of renunciation. Okay, Chitraketu Maharaj, yes, tolerant. Oh, what about Bhumi? What's the example of Bhumi being tolerant? And was she tolerant? Was she, in the end, was she tolerant of the test or the austerities that she was performing? Who'd like to speak on Bhumi?
Prabhuji, Mother Earth is tolerating all the sins. I mean, people are doing so many sinful activities. So Mother Earth is tolerating this continuously. And yes, Prabhuji, so this is my realization.
When Bhumi was feeling the burden of the kings, what did she do? Did she tolerate it or not?
No, yeah, she tolerated, and then she's surrendered to Krishna for the solution.
And how did she do that? Can anybody say, how did Bhumi respond to the burden that she was carrying in the form of all of the demoniac Kshatriyas? How did she respond to that?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
He assumed the form of a cow and approached Lord Brahmaji.
Yes, the demigods. So she couldn't tolerate it and wasn't prepared to tolerate it, and she wanted to do something about it, right? And so what happened?
So she went and spoke to Brahma about her problems, and all of them went and surrendered to Lord Vishnu, Garbhoda Vishaya Vishnu.
Yeah, through the agency of
Brahma.
Brahma. Yeah, that's right. And on the shore of the Milk Ocean, Lord Brahma offered prayers. He went into meditation and then offered prayers, and then through through a divine communication, if you like, Krishna or Lord Vishnu revealed that he would take birth as Krishna to relieve Bhumi's burden. Yeah, so in one sense, she didn't tolerate, when you think about it, right? You know, and that's interesting because, you know, sometimes you tolerate and sometimes you don't, you do something about it. You have to, it brings about an interesting concept. You know, we need to determine what we should tolerate and what we should act on.
Prabhuji, that is proving that everybody has a limit of tolerance, right, Prabhuji? I mean, everybody has limit of tolerance. Like tolerance has a limit that, okay, you can tolerate for many years, okay, and like Pandavas tolerated many things, and then they engaged in a war, and so actually I think tolerance has a limitation, and when it goes beyond this limitation, so then devotee can surrender to Supreme Lord of Godhead, Krishna.
Yes.
What?
Yes, you're right. But here's a question. There are some things we have to tolerate. Can you think of what they might be? What are some of the things that we have to tolerate? We can't. What's that?
Climate.
She said climate.
What's that?
Climate.
Oh, climate. Yes. It got clipped. Climate. Yes. Sita, Ushna, Sukha, Dukkha, Daha. Right. Sita and Ushna. Hot and cold. Or cold and hot. Okay. What else do we have to tolerate?
Prabhuji, devotees tolerate. I mean, people can give any negative things for him, but devotees tolerate everything which is actually negative for him. But when anything like Hanuman did everything for Lord Ram. But so similarly, devotees can tolerate all the negative things coming for him. But when anything negative comes from for the institution like ISKCON or for the devotees, so then they protest or they surrender to Krishna for the solution.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. What about the details? Some other obstacles or challenges. The details. What do we have to tolerate? Oh, I've got a call coming here. Just hang on a second. There we go. What are some of the things that we have to tolerate? They may be difficulties. There may be some difficulty attached to them, but we have to persevere regardless. What are some examples?
Prabhu, the 3 kleshas.
Yes, yeah, very good. Adhyatmik, adhibhautik, adhidaivika klesh, which means miseries that arise from pains and suffering that come from the body, the mind also. From others, adhibhautik, yeah, and the seasonal. Yeah, okay. Climate was one of those. Climate, others, and the self. Okay, what other might come to mind?
Prabhu, somebody put in the chat the desire, the urges of the mind and body.
Yeah, that's adhyatmik. Yep. But yes, you're right. What about, well, yeah, what about following the regulated principles, for example? Or chanting 16 rounds. We have to tolerate the mind's demands while we're chanting. We have to tolerate the urges. Rupa Goswami gives us those instructions in the beginning of the Nectar of Instruction. Okay, all right. Now, yes, sorry.
Prabhuji, a result of previous karmas, like I'm suffering for my previous karma, so you have to tolerate it.
Yes, yeah. Okay, last one. Dharma, the bull. Who hasn't spoken already? Our current, those participants have already. Let's see if we can get somebody else who'd like to explain how Dharma, the bull, represents tolerance. Mm-hmm. Okay. Who suggested Dharma as an example?
Prabhu, I suggested Dharma as an example for tolerance, because when we see in the past time, when Kali Purusha was trying to beat the bull, it was not resisting. Sorry, it was not. What do you say? It was not reacting to Kali as the cause, but it's actually seeing the overall cause.
Yes.
Yeah,
but not
that
wanting to
requires a
say
lot
it's
of,
Krishna. Yeah.
um,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he accepted everything as the, yeah.
Yep. And somebody's corrected me here. Thank you. You're right. It was Dadichi Muni, not Marichi. I got the M mixed up with the D. Marichi, not Dadichi, not Marichi. Marichi's, I think he's also a very elevated saint. Okay. All right. That's good. Now, we're close to an hour, and we could go on and discuss our own challenges. But does anybody have any comments or questions at this point?
Prabhu, I have the same question, how you pointed out. There's something we need to tolerate and some things we no need to tolerate. So
Yes.
sometimes we don't have such distinction. So how do we learn such distinction?
One of the advantages of living in ISKCON is the association of the devotees and the association of many who have our friends and even more senior advanced devotees. We have an opportunity to associate, and you know, our process of association is quite simple. It's mentioned by Rupa Goswami. Tadati pratigrinati guya makyati prichati. So ours is a movement of give and take, and especially guyam, revealing our inner thoughts, inner challenges and struggles even, and revealing our inquiring confidentially and revealing our minds confidentially. They both go together. So we have the opportunity of experience, learning from experience, but we also have the opportunity of learning through the experience of others or the realizations of others. And so therefore, if we're facing a situation where we're not sure whether it requires tolerance or an adjustment, what that adjustment might be or should be, or how tolerance should be exercised, but also we should make adjustments, because in the material world, we're never going to find a perfect situation, a utopian situation, especially as devotees. How advanced is Srila Haridas Thakur, the incarnation, the personification of Prahlad Maharaj's tolerance, and the manifestation of Lord Brahma. How qualified is that personality? Yet, despite having so many qualifications, underwent so many tribulations, and we see that very commonly in the lives of Prahlad Maharaj. It's said that the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj are meditated upon by Srimati Radharani for inspiration, right? So how advanced is he, and yet had to undergo such severe tests. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, our Srila Prabhupada, the austerities and the tolerance demonstrated by Srila Prabhupada teaches us that even though you're a devotee, an elevated associate of the Lord, still there will be tests, there will be austerities, there will be trials. So we have the good fortune of being able to, in ISKCON, the example is given of just being, by ourselves, we're one little stick, easily broken. But in the association of the Vaishnavas and in taking advantage of that association, sharing our thoughts, inquiring, receiving advice from the senior devotees, it's easy to develop the buddhi, if you like, the ability to distinguish between those things that I need to tolerate, those things that I need to tolerate, but I can make adjustments, and those things where I can make adjustments to resolve the issue or the challenge. So very often we're going to get that inspiration from other devotees. Of course, also, as we've been doing today, looking at the character and the qualities of those devotees in our line or in our tradition who exemplify tolerance, and meditating on their example, and from that gaining inspiration and enthusiasm out of their example. So number of ways. And Prabhupada says chant Hare Krishna, because that's kind of our potted. That's, they say, pop goes the Gita. Well, we say, chant Hare Krishna and you'll solve all problems. Anything else? Anyone else with a question or a comment?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Leela.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, we know that there is a reason behind everything. There is a lesson behind every painful situation which we undergo. Krishna, definitely he would have kept some lesson behind us. But as a normal human mentality, we go behind what is the lesson I'm going to learn from this. So once if I learn, so that I can come out of this painful situation. But it is my personal experience. It will never be revealed.
Never be revealed.
Prabhu?
It'll never be revealed?
No. I haven't seen.
Why not?
I don't know what was the reason behind the situation which I have undergone all these days. Now it is gone out of me. Maybe my senior devotees or my maybe Krishna or my guru might be knowing that what is the lesson I have learned. But unfortunately, I am not able to recognize those things. But I took it as only a tolerance. Okay, I have to tolerate because it is very difficult to.
But that was the lesson then, wasn't it?
I don't know because I don't think so that still I have learned how to tolerate the situation. So there is yet to learn, right?
Yeah. Almost every day we learn something. Even we learn the same lesson that we forgot the day before. Yeah. Okay, somebody got their hand up at the moment? Did I miss anybody? Let's have a look here.
Excuse me, Prabhu, I have a hand.
Ambika, yes, I can see you now, sorry.
So I wanted to ask that what type of things we should not tolerate at all, or is there, can we make a distinction?
Lord Chaitanya says that, you know, the attack or the abuse of another devotee should not be tolerated. But that's a good question. And not only identifying those circumstances or situations which shouldn't be tolerated, but then identifying what the appropriate response is, right? And so material existence shouldn't be tolerated, but then what do we do to avoid the struggles or the inconveniences that come about as a result of material existence? We have to tolerate those things, yet we can do something about it. So in pretty much most cases, if there are intolerable circumstances and situations, we can do something about it. You know, we have to accept our lot and appreciate that if we're struggling or there's some difficulty, that we're burning up the results of our past bad karma. This is Prabhupada's instruction, the Shastric injunction, right? And so, and also the mood of the Vaishnava, Prabhupada says, is that I'm getting just a token of what I deserve, right? So there's that mood of acceptance of whatever difficulties there might be, and acknowledging or appreciating that they're a fraction of the reactions that we should have got, should have received. And for oneself, you know, the mood is I accept. You know, I accept and tolerate what is a personal inconvenience. But then, if it's an offence committed against a devotee, or if it's an offence committed against the spiritual master, if it's an offence against the Shastra, it may be an offence or an attack upon ISKCON, right, which effectively is an attack on Prabhupada, or it's an attack on the broader Sangha, the Satsanga, the ISKCON Satsanga, if you like, right? So these kind of attacks are not to be tolerated. They should be acted upon, and some rectification of the situation should be pursued. And if we're not clear on whether something's to be tolerated or something's to be acted on, then that's where we can take it. We can take advantage of the examples that are given in Shastra. We can take advantage of the examples that are given within our parampara. The example of Srila Prabhupada, especially. And in that way, then, you know, and in consultation with our peers and our seniors, it's actually not that difficult to work out how to act. Sadhu Sastra Sangha, isn't it? So we have these three guides, if you like, and we can work out, okay, should I tolerate this? Go to the senior devotees, they'll say, an example in my before I was a temple president, I was faced with a challenge, and I spoke to one of my seniors, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and he told me, he said, "Don't worry, I can sort this problem out for you." 6 months later, he said, "Looks like I can't sort out this problem. We're going to have to depend on Krishna." Right? So, and that's what we did. And eventually the problem was solved. So we can seek guidance from our spiritual masters. We can seek guidance from the sadhus, our friends, or other senior devotees. And we can meditate on these pastimes in the Shastra, and that way be inspired effectively. And sometimes Krishna will reveal it too. Will reveal, after having considered all of these things, Krishna will reveal. Here's another person calling me. They just sent a message. Yeah. Okay, does anybody have any other comment or question?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, can you please glorify Lord Shiva, because today is here Shiva Chaturdashi. So how he tolerated any situation?
Ooh, okay, sure.
Yes.
An interesting example is the passing of Sati, right? And how Daksha had offended his daughter. And he'd offended his daughter by criticizing her husband, right? I know, from personal experience, my wife is always telling me how I can improve. My most vocal critic is my wife. But if she hears anybody criticizing me, then she becomes super defensive, right? And she presents me as if I'm the most saintly person on the planet. In private, I'm something else. So it's a good example of how, we should defend the others. And so when Daksha, her father, and this really cut Sati, because she respected her father, and she expected when she came to the sacrifice that he would be affectionate and appreciate that she'd come for the yajna, and she was his favorite daughter, and so that he would show affection, but he didn't. He criticized her husband, and Lord Shiva is a very, very saint. What is it? The topmost of the Vaishnavas. He's described it, right? So Sati was terror. She was so inflicted, if you like, conflicted by her father's inimical behavior, that she decided to renounce any connection with him. And so that meant then leaving her body, because that was given to her by her father, right? Pretty radical. If your father offends you and the devotees, offends the devotees or your guru or whatever, I suggest don't commit suicide. That's probably, it might be considered a bit of an overreaction, but anyway, special circumstance. But then Lord Shiva was naturally then upset. Lord Shiva's followers were upset after Sati had departed, and so they just, you know, they went ballistic. Meaning, you know, they destroyed the Jagya shal, destroyed the arena of the sacrifice. And Lord Shiva was upset also that Daksha had been the cause of his wife's departure. And usually Lord Shiva's very, very, very tolerant personality. He's chanting Hare Krishna all of the time. He's an inspiration. He's the inspiration for the Buddhas and the hobgoblins. He's the inspiration for those influenced by the mode of ignorance. And he's always working or acting for the benefit of all. So even he was upset then about the fact that his wife had been insulted and had departed. And so he created a demon, I guess you could call him. I think that's how he's described. What was the name of the Lord Shiva? Struck a hair from his head into the ground, right? Virabhadra, yeah, thanks. Yeah. I was thinking Virabhadra, but that wouldn't be right, would it? So anyway, and then, you know, so Lord Shiva responded to Daksha's misbehaviour, and eventually Daksha had his head chopped off. Or no, I think that was previous, wasn't it? Was that, did Daksha's head get chopped off in the first round of attack from the Shiva's followers, or was it in the second? Anyway, in any case, Daksha had his head chopped off, and then that might have been the second Jagya. Yes, it was. Daksha had the second Jagya, but he didn't set aside a place for Lord Shiva, and of course that upset everybody. So anyway, yes, Shiva's an example of somebody who very, very tolerant, but yet when there was an offence committed against the Vaishnavas or against his wife in this particular case, he didn't stand for it. There's a lot to be learned from that pastime of the interaction between Daksha and Lord Shiva. Worth studying. Okay, it's now 10 to 2 for me in the afternoon. What's that? 20 past 8 for you? In the morning?
Aniruddha
Prasanta.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, how's it going?
Thank you for your practical deliberation on tolerance. It's a difficult thing in general for all of us to tolerate. But
if you can tolerate me, I can tolerate you.
Yeah, so it's a very important thing for us in the Krishna consciousness to learn to tolerate the, as you said, the urges, the onslaughts of material nature, tolerate our mind, tolerate the Vaishnavas around us.
That's the hardest. The hardest
That-
is to tolerate each other. I think that's the hardest.
Yes, I believe one time Srila Prabhupada was somewhere in America, if I remember, and the devotee, there was one devotee, some kind of new devotee, who was kind of pretty much of a trouble, and the devotees were telling Prabhupada all kinds of bad reports about him, and they were trying. What they meant is that he doesn't belong here, and please give us the permission to just kick him out, you know. So they were building up their appeal and the case and everything, but Prabhupada in the end said, "He's your tapasya." So sometimes some devotees seem to be our tapasya.
Yes, yeah.
That somehow, right? But many times we are also a tapasya for others.
Yeah.
So yes, we have to tolerate, definitely. This is one of the first lessons that Krishna gives. Matra sparshas tu kamteya shitos tu sukha dukkada agama payino nityastam stitikshasva bharata.
That's right.
So
Yes.
we have to tolerate, we have to live with all our discrepancies. Of course, we tolerate them with a long-term plan. Not, as you said, we don't tolerate material existence, means we have a plan. We have a plan, but in the meantime, we do have to live with certain things. Yes. And I think the point was also good. What should we not tolerate? Definitely sometimes, especially if we are in positions of responsibility, which can go from managerial responsibilities, leadership responsibilities, to simply family responsibilities.
Yes.
There are certain things that we cannot tolerate. We cannot tolerate abuse of the people who are under our care. We have been appointed as protectors, as fathers, mothers, teachers, managers. We have been appointed as protectors. We are part of the Lord's team. And so in those cases, we have to take action. We cannot.
Yes.
And,
Yes. Yep.
Vaishnava can tolerate anything against himself, but if those under his care are attacked, or Krishna is attacked, or the Vaishnavas are attacked around, then it's either we have the strength to defend them, or we have to call for help. But we cannot just tolerate child abuse. We cannot tolerate all kinds of things. You know, we have to take action.
Yes.
So thank you so
Yes.
much for all these, for making us think and taking us through this topic. We hope to see you again sometime in the future.
Yes, why not?
Yes, why not?
At the moment, it's probably not going to be the near future, but the not too distant future is fast approaching.
Yes, well, we are a permanent establishment here. So anytime in the close or far future, we are hoping to still be here and welcome you.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna to
Hare
all
Krishna.
the students, Hare Krishna to Achintya Rupa,
Yeah,
and wishing all the best to everyone. Hare Krishna.
thank you, Prashanta. Hare Krishna,
Haribol.
Prabhupada.
Hari Hari.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.